In a quiet farming town where every day looked the same, there lived a boy named Rami. He wasn't the smartest in school, not the strongest in his family, and not the most talented in anything people considered important. But Rami had something else. He had effort. Every morning before the sun came up, he helped his father in the fields. After school, he studied hard, worked part-time, and even tried to build a small vegetable garden of his own. Yet, despite everything, nothing seemed to work out. His grades weren't great, his garden kept failing, and no matter how much he tried, life kept handing him silence in return. He watched others succeed quickly. His cousin got into college easily, his neighbor won a local competition. But Rami, he just kept trying and kept feeling like nothing was ever enough. He began to wonder, what if effort doesn't matter? What if he was just failing? One evening, after another long and quiet day, Rami sat alone on the edge of the field. The garden he'd worked on for months had withered again. The plants were dry, the soil looked tired. He stared at it, defeated. His father noticed and walked over, sitting beside him without saying a word. After a moment, the old man picked up a handful of soil and let it slip slowly through his fingers. "You know," he said, "not all seeds grow fast. Some take weeks before they even break the ground. But just because you don't see anything doesn't mean something isn't happening underneath." Rami didn't answer, but the words stayed with him. That night, he couldn't sleep. His father's words echoed in his head. What if the problem wasn't that he was failing? What if he just hadn't seen the growth yet? What if his effort was working, just not in the way he expected, or as fast as he hoped? The next day, Rami made a quiet decision. He would stop obsessing over quick results. Instead, he would focus on showing up. Every morning, he returned to the garden, not to check if things had changed, but to keep watering, tending, preparing the soil. He did the same with his studies. He stopped comparing himself to others and focused on getting just a little better than yesterday. It wasn't easy. There were days when he felt the weight of silence again, when nothing around him seemed to move. But he kept going. Without even noticing, something inside him started to change. His patience deepened. His mindset sharpened. He didn't realize it, but he was growing. Not in the way the world measured growth, but in the way that truly mattered. Quietly, slowly, he was becoming someone who didn't just chase success, but someone who could carry it when it arrived. Weeks passed, and the garden still looked quiet. No dramatic change, no sudden breakthrough. But one morning, Rami noticed something different. A small green sprout pushing through the soil. It was barely noticeable, but it was real. It wasn't the strongest plant, or the biggest, but it was proof. Proof that everything he had been doing wasn't wasted, that something had been happening beneath the surface all along. He smiled, not because the garden was now a success, but because he finally understood what his father meant. Growth is often invisible before it becomes undeniable. That same week, one of his teachers called him aside after class. "I've been watching you," she said. "You've improved. Quietly, but steadily. I think you're ready for something more challenging." Rami walked home that day with a quiet confidence in his chest. Not loud, not flashy, but real. He was no longer chasing fast results. He was becoming someone built to last. From that day on, Rami stopped treating setbacks as signs of failure. When something didn't work, he didn't break down. He adjusted. When a test score wasn't what he hoped, he used it to study smarter. When the weather ruined another corner of his garden, he replanted without complaint. Over time, something beautiful began to unfold. Not in the garden or his grades alone, but in who he was becoming. He wasn't faster than others. He wasn't more talented. But he was steady. He was patient. He had learned to keep showing up even when it felt like nothing was changing, and that made him unstoppable. Others began to notice. Friends who once laughed at his efforts now came to him for advice. His story wasn't loud, but it was powerful. Because growth doesn't need applause. It just needs consistency, faith, and time. And Rami had all three, not from the start, but from staying long enough to earn them. Years later, when people asked Rami how he became successful, he didn't talk about luck, or shortcuts, or sudden breakthroughs. He talked about patience, about showing up on days when it felt pointless, about trusting the process when there was no proof it was working. He looked back and realized that the most important things were happening when it looked like nothing was. The roots were growing before the tree ever appeared. The mindset was being built before the results ever came. His journey had taught him a truth many forget. You're not failing just because you don't see fast results. You're growing in ways the world can't measure yet. The question is, will you stay long enough to see it? And now, ask yourself, are you judging your progress by what's visible? Or are you willing to trust that your silent effort is already shaping something powerful?